What's up, guys? It's Dakota, and today I'm going to be going over something that I don't think a lot of players ever really think about when they're playing in bigger tournaments. Maybe it's even like an IQ or a Star City Games Open or like a Magic Fest and things like that. And even though I know those things aren't technically going on right now, this is something that is very important and not only can give you a competitive advantage, but can also just kind of give you very good feels in life and things like that because we're all like raising our quality of life. And that's conceding essentially when it's advantageous to you. And while it sounds weird that like obviously you can't win a game that you just concede versus a game you keep playing, I'm gonna give you some examples and some things that you want to keep in mind, while while we go over this topic. A, when you have a shared clock in a game like Magic or in any TCG, and you have a very low percentage of winning the game, where it's a super specific set of draws, a super specific set of cards, your opponent playing in a certain way that they really haven't been playing like all game. Things like that are things that you want to keep in mind when you just keep looking back at the clock. If you have like a 1 to 5% chance of winning the game, and these matches are going to take a while, and there's only 30 to 35 minutes on the clock, it's probably very advantageous for you to concede in a situation like that because it gives you more time to try to win the game. And those games that are very grindy and that are going to take up to every bit of like 25-30 minutes after you finish sideboarding and things like that. Another thing to keep in mind when when figuring out when to concede or not is giving information to your opponent that could be very, very harmful to you if you give it to them. So for most people, it's like they're playing like a one or a two of like a card in their deck, or it's just a card that completely like blows out your opponent, or completely just goes with like your game plan and everything what you're trying to accomplish with your deck. If your opponent doesn't see that and they think that you're a different kind of deck, they'll sideboard incorrect, more than likely incorrectly. That they're not going to be able to guess like, well, I didn't see this, but they probably have this. And in some cases, like yeah, that can happen. But in reality, if you're like a brewer and things like that, it's going to be a lot easier for you to pull off that bluff and kind of pull something out of your sleeve that wouldn't be on a player's radar because it wasn't revealed to them. And obviously, you don't want to just concede a game to conceal information if you're going to win the game. You want to do it in situations where, like I said in the last example, like you're very unlikely to win. And in those situations, like I would almost go up to like you're at a 30 to 20% chance of winning, where obviously like maybe one or two cards just kind of changes it, and now it's kind of a coin toss, and then like another card just like puts you ahead. Things like that, again, are all things to keep in mind. There's situations where it's kind of clear cut, and there's other ones where it's kind of like, I don't think it's wrong if you concede, or I don't think it's right if you don't. Things like that. Just all things to keep in mind because it's a tool that I I think people know, but they just think like, man, like I'm gonna lose a game though, and like I obviously you have a 0% chance of winning a game that you decide that your opponent wins versus even 1% of like winning a game. And of course, when you're in game three situations or game two and you're down a game and things like that, obviously conceding does nothing for you. There is very, 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 very few situations that I could think of where you would just concede a game that would make you lose a match, unless it's like that you're going to be in top eight and you're playing your friend, and if they win, that you put them in the top eight, and then you're still in top eight even if you lose, or things, situations like that are ones where through normal gameplay, playing with like a complete stranger, like you more than likely wouldn't do it. But I guess those situations do technically exist, and those are things that you have to keep in mind when thinking like this. So, kind of to wrap it up, because I mean, it is kind of a short topic. I mean, it kind of is what it is. So, considering conceding games that you're very unlikely to win, definitely saves on clock. And again, if you're into playing like those really grindy decks and those grindy matchups, you're going to want every minute that you possibly can. You know, you have to take into account sideboarding for game two, and if you win game two, even for game three, so you can have enough time to try and win that game as well, or at least put yourself in a favorable position that when it goes to turns, you can win in the next few turns. Also, I guess I did hint to it at first, like just like a quality of life thing. You know, if a matchup's super miserable, like yeah, technically you have a chance to win the game, but it's like I need six specific cards in this order, and then my opponent to draw air, and then also make a few misplays and things like that. Technically, yes, you know, you have an avenue to win the game, but in reality, it sounds super miserable. And as soon as it doesn't happen, like you can just obviously concede, move on with your life. While it sucks to lose, obviously it's worse to feel miserable for longer than what it would if you just lose rather than losing for like 18 turns from your mid range or control or whoever your opponent ends up being at that time. So hopefully these kind of like tips and like situations that you kind of want to look for help you to save as much time on a shared clock as possible and put you in a better position to win a match overall. You know, you lose the battle, not the war. So definitely have that mentality when you play best of threes. Is, you know, obviously you want to win the battle, like you want to win every battle, but don't don't put yourself in a terrible situation for the rest of the war if you know winning that battle is already a long shot. So definitely things to keep in mind. Good things that I've definitely taken, and something that I thought was like crazy at first, but has ended up helping me to squeak out some match wins. You know, just in the nick of time by making that decision and knowing and recognizing the situation where it's better if I do it this way than just playing it out and hoping that I hit the 1% rather than hitting like maybe the 50-50 or 60-40%, and then obviously getting the information that you need versus concealing from your opponent. So hopefully this video is very helpful to the people that wanted to see it. I'm sure nobody asked for it, but I definitely feel inclined to because I like making these kind of videos. And it's interesting because it kind of highlights one of the things that you either don't think about or nobody really talks about. So that's going to be it for me in this video, though. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to like the video. Leave a comment down below if there's anything that I missed regarding this topic or anything that I should talk about in the future. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so you know that when I upload videos, especially since we're towards the end of Core 21 season, or spoiler season rather. So still going to be putting up some spoiler videos. Going to try to put at least one up every day. But, I mean, we'll see how it is. I'd like to just go over the interesting cards that I think we'll see play. Finally, also, check out the Twitch channel, crowdeddy_23 on Twitch. I stream there about as often as I possibly can. Not as often as I would obviously want to, but enough to where, I guess I feel satisfied for it. So be sure to check that as well if you want more content than what I already have on the channel. Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.